welcome to another hot as bollocks Fight the Night review. I was gonna say something about the one I didn't do last week, but I already covered that in my last video, which was the Music of the Week episode I did this past Thursday. But we're not here to talk about the past, we're here to talk about the present. We have a Fight the Night review. It was the co-main event at the Pechanga Arena in San Diego, California, between Nate Landwehr and David Onama. And as always, I'm going to try and remember what I can round by round and wrap up my thoughts in a lovely review by the end, like a neat little bow. And yeah, just going to see where we wind up, so I think we should start. We begin with the first round, and both men are sort of standing across from each other, and they're both throwing strikes quite frequently. David especially setting up his jab a lot better than Nate is. Nate's throwing the odd leg kick here and there, however he's not throwing as much as he should. He's landing the odd counter here and there, and he's doing more pressuring than David is, but David's definitely the one striking more. And it is very exciting back and forth on the feet, but like it's just a little bit, you know, and you can feel like it's building to something. And eventually it does build to a big something when David lands a whop over right hand and knocks Nate down. Immediately jumps on top of him, sort of gets a takedown after that, but Nate's able to recover and get back to his feet. And they're sort of where they were near the start of the round by that point, but then David lands another, yeah, it is David, I almost said Nate. David lands another 1-2 combo, and that knocks Nate down again, and he's storming on him again on the ground, and it's amazing how the fight isn't stopped by this point, although that is a phrase I'm going to be saying a lot through this review, spoiler. But yeah, this was an incredible first round, and it's not even over, because after David was able to get the mount and stick it to Nate with some really good punches, Nate was able to actually turn around, because David sort of had his back, and he was on his back, and he had David sort of on him, and it was like a rear naked choke position, but David was able, he had Nate on him. Nate was able to turn around and sort of mount up and land some really good elbows that did rock David. There was no bleeding. In fact, the biggest damage was from a big left jab that David landed on Nate in round one, and his left eye was really nastily swollen. Well, it's more like sort of a cheek orbital bone thing. I don't know all the techie terms. But yeah, round one, really exciting, especially with Nate winding up on top and sort of getting a little bit back for him. But I give round one fairly to David. He was just outlanding Nate at a heavier clip. He got two massive knockdowns that really hurt Nate really bad. But Nate was able to recover. He just tanked it. He was tough. He managed to power through it. And the fact that he was able to mount David and get some really good elbows off is just really good shit. But I am giving round one to David. He was just... yeah, he just had it in the bag, really, I think. I can't really think of a more complicated way to say it. It's just, he won round one. The thing gets round two, and you can see that David is a little bit more tired. He's definitely the more tired one going to the stall, because he did exert quite a lot of energy trying to finish off Nate in round one. But he does, he manages to recover well enough, I think, between rounds. However, the moment this round starts, Nate immediately starts swarming on David, almost from the opening seconds of it. He's putting his combos together way better, and pretty much this entire round is probably going to be the shortest reviewed of this video, but Nate is just punching really hard, essentially. He's just hitting David everywhere, outlanding him with great combos, landing some amazing looping shots, landing really good uppercuts, following up with some really good knees, and he does knock down David a lot. And again, I'm very surprised that on almost all these knockdowns the fight wasn't stopped. More surprised, though, by the fact that Nate managed to get in a DOS attempt, an anaconda attempt, another anaconda attempt, and a guillotine attempt, and he wasn't able to get any of the submissions. They looked really tight, but because both fighters were obviously really tight and sweaty, and sweat plays a huge factor in submissions, he couldn't really lock any of them fully in. Having said that, Nate completely wins round two for me. He was just absolutely swarming on David every chance he got. David did actually land a pretty good right at some point during the middle of a combo where he was being hit really hard, but yeah, he was stunned, he was wobbled, he was eating so many nasty shots. He was getting taken down a fair bit as well. He went for his own desperation takedown attempt, so it was a good one he went for where he had sort of Nate against the cage. But Nate almost lifted him and almost got a pile driver off it as a form of defense. It was just... it's shit you don't really see a lot these days in the UFC especially. Yeah, round two, giving fully to Nate though. Just absolutely beat David around the cage. It was really, really fun. But David, props to him for tanking that many shots and for throwing his own fair amount. Not nearly as many as Nate did, but still, he did hang in there better than I think people give him credit for. And finally, we get to round three, and at first it seems like it's going the same way as round two, especially with Nate opening with some really good shots, landing his combos, putting his hands together a bit better. His boxing is really on form in round two, and it is a bit more so in round three as well. But he only has control of the first half of the round before David finally just decides, you know what, fuck it. Let's go, let's make this fight, and that is exactly what David does. And at this point it does seem a bit like Nate is playing with him, because Nate got a fair few knockdowns in round 3, and he was like, he didn't want to stay on the ground with him, so he would just stand up and get the crowd rolled up. And by the way, the crowd was so good for this fight. It was a fucking amazing crowd, as it usually is in San Diego, I find. Every time that Nate would get a knockdown, he would just keep rolling the crowd up, and I really did appreciate that. You know, it's something that not many fighters do, and especially when they're in more dominant positions. But I don't know whether or not it came back to bite Nate, because, like I said, about halfway through the third and final round, that is when David started to come back a little bit. He was opening some really good shots of his own. He even knocked Nate down at some point in the middle of round 3, and he was mounting on him again, trying to get some good shots off. And he was throwing a bit of desperation wrestling with David at some points, because he was obviously knackered. But he was definitely striking as best as he could, but Nate was just there with him all day, like outlanding him whenever he could, using good head movement on occasion, and just really getting the crowd invested, and it got me invested too. And yeah, it wasn't exactly like round 2 where Nate beat David all around the cage, but when David started having the advantage halfway through round 3, it was really incredible to see. And I think he might have sort of gotten a takedown. There was a really awkward looking one near the, I want to say, 2/3 of the way in of round 3, and then from there it seems like Nate has most of it. He's again landing some really good shit. I think he does at some point get another top position, but with the last few seconds of round 3, David lands, like, at this point David had landed his fair few rights. He's just smashing through Nate's guard. But near the end of round 3, he lands a huge right and sends a flurry off after Nate, and Nate is knocked down and against the cage, and there's a fair few seconds left, and the fight does not finish though. It does see its conclusion as it goes to a decision. But I thought that would have been it for Nate near the end, because he had a nasty shot and he was being swallowed zone. It was a bit like when Francis Ngannou did it to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, but that was in 16 seconds of round 1. This was the last few seconds of round 3. And he didn't finish it, David didn't, but props to him for trying, because it was a desperation attempt that nearly worked, and he was hitting Nate pretty hard in round 3. Having said that, round 3 is probably the most difficult to call, but I think Nate has it, and it's just a really fun round for a really fun fight, but we'll get to that, well, now. So Nate would indeed win by majority decision, and I think that's a really fair call. I would give round 1 fairly to David, I would give round 2 pretty fairly to Nate, and round 3, very difficult to call, but I would also give it to Nate as well, mostly because he seems to have more moments of it. But all in all, this fight is a top 10 contender. I loved every second of this. I loved how into it Nate was. I liked it when David started giving the credit into it a bit more as well, because there was a moment in round 3 where he was badly hurt and he was stood back a bit and he was like, no, fuck it, come on. And he was getting the crowd behind him a little bit as well. It was just really fun fight. I 100% enjoyed it. I wasn't too familiar with David before this, and Nate is a name I've seen before, but yeah, it was just a hell of a lot of fun. So absolutely 100% go and find this fight. It's really good. I have no complaints about the decision. Nate did do enough to win for me, but David, good lord, he had so many moments where he could have finished it. And Mike Beltran is so good at giving the fighters enough time unless he thinks that there's going to be like a proper finish involved. So I do appreciate his refereeing work for this fight. But that's enough for me. Go find this fight. It was really fucking good. The next thing you'll see me for, though, will be tonight. I'm going to continue my Let's Play of Black. So yeah, look forward to that. Hopefully I can get past all those fucking mines. And then next thing you'll see me for will probably be, the PWW vs AEW Go Home show on Tuesday. And then, next thing I can guarantee is Friday night Harsh Environment. It's gonna be good. So yeah, I'll see you all tonight at the earliest. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome.